every yes you say is a no to something else.
Mm.
And I'm sure like we are probably all similar. When you make a commitment to something, I'm not going to bail.
Yeah.
So it's like
Right.
my yes, today to being a guest on the podcast. Maybe that means I had to say no to lunch with somebody
Right.
that I really wanted to have lunch with, but it's like first come, first serve kind of thing. But also I think you do have to realize like, is this something that I'm going to get value out of, or I'll just really enjoy the conversation, or this person maybe is able to open some doors for me, or vice versa. Am I able to give back to this person? And I think some of that comes with time in a business.
Yeah.
Starting to feel like it's okay to say no. I just don't have the bandwidth for that.
Yeah. And in entrepreneurship,
Well, every choice in our life it's all a cost benefit analysis. Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right? A podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. I don't think I have the bedroom voice in me today, Colleen.
It's okay.
But I do think we're doing this right.
We are. And your internet is working and you're here. And you guys, Cheryl has California's having power outages again, probably because it's hot, right?
So it's fire season, which essentially means the wind blows and one of the power cables moves and PG&E just shuts the power off in case there's a fire. And they don't want to spark fire because they don't want to pay millions of dollars again. So it's like a preventative thing. They shut all the power off and then they come and they have to manually inspect every power line. And then once they've done that to make sure there's no issue, then they can turn the power back on. So it's a real thorn in my side. And I understand because shit rolls downhill. This is the thing maybe some people don't understand is, okay, we've filed all these massive lawsuits against PG&E because all these massive wildfires that we decided were their fault. And now not only are our rates through the roof now to have power, but also they have to do preventative measures so that they can't be proven negligent again. And so we lose power for hours at a time now. It's a real pain in my rear. So our generator's on, but our internet wasn't working like it should, but we seem to be fine now.
We're doing it.
Fingers crossed we're going to be good to go.
We're doing it.
Thanks, Alex, for the generator. You're the man. So we have a special guest from Indy today.
So excited about our guest. Freaking out.
So shout out to Inspire Her Indy, the Inspire Her Collective Indy, because I just heard she's a member and I love that. We have Mariah Baer here. She's a twin mom, a wife, a friend, a business owner, an organizer, an occasional marriage officiant, and of course, master of all color-coded closet and highly proficient with a label maker. Mariah Baer is the founder and lead organizer of the Baer Minimalist, focused on helping busy families across the Indianapolis metro area cut the clutter, donate, and do good, and cue the confetti. So welcome. Thanks for being here, Mariah.
Welcome. We're so excited.
Me.
Also, we were talking about this before the show, but shout out to our good friend, Allie, who connected Mariah. Allie and Raleigh. Follow her on Instagram. She's a realtor, Compass Realtor out of Raleigh, North Carolina. But in the weirdest roundabout way, Mariah and I live very 10, 15 minutes from each other and got connected through our mutual friend, Allie, which is just, I love the world. I love the world. I think it's so fun.
I do too.
And
thanks, Allie.
Yeah. And subsequently, I have, Mariah and I have worked together on different projects or shared mutual clients. And it's been just a lovely relationship. And now she's in our Inspire Her group. And she's just fabulous. And I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited to chat with you. So Cheryl always says, okay, we had your 2-second bio, but tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us all about you.
So I'm originally from Minnesota, but I did something very kind of uncharacteristic, and I studied abroad. Uncharacteristic for me because I'm a type A. I'm a planner. I've got my plan. I got to stick to the plan. And just on a whim in college, I decided I'm going to study abroad, and I'm going to go somewhere that no one else from my college is going. but I did want English speaking. And so I found myself in New Zealand.
Mm.
And while I was there, I met a guy from Indiana. And so after I graduated, I ended up moving here. So outside of knowing him and his family, I really didn't know a single soul when I moved to Indiana. And it's been a long time now. I've been here for 18 years, but it's so cool to see, I think, like a career trajectory and then starting a business and how that business is embraced, and the fact, like just the amount of people that I've connected with over those years, knowing that I really only started my time here 18 years ago. So after graduating, I actually graduated with a degree in television broadcasting, which at that point, social media wasn't that big of a thing. But now I'm like, gosh, I almost get to use that degree every day on like Insta stories. But I worked for a company that did meeting and event planning for pharmaceutical businesses. And while I was there for about 4 years, I noticed a couple gaps in our process and pitched new roles for the company that I thought, if I take this one thing off of all of these people's plate, the first thing I did was I built all of our websites where people would register for meetings and their events, because there were like all these program managers, and this was one little piece of the puzzle of what they had to do. And sometimes there were, typos, or a link didn't work, or there were just a lot of inefficiencies. And I thought, what if I just become the website girl and I just make all these event websites? And so I pitched that role. And then a little bit later on, our company had grown. We had about 100 people. And outside of like a benefits person, there was no one that kind of like managed the first couple weeks of a new employee's time. And so I thought, well, what if I started doing the first round interviews for all candidates and then kind of managed the orientation for the first couple weeks for all the roles? So I pitched that role, and that went over well. Then I went to a startup and I did marketing for them. And I didn't really have much of a background in marketing, but they were willing to take a chance. Then I found myself at Angie's List, which anyone who's done sales in Indianapolis has probably worked for Angie's List. I managed some of our national accounts. And so that was really my first opportunity to work in a sales role, especially one that was pretty much 100% commission based. And I wasn't, I still don't think of myself as like a traditional salesperson, but I found that, if I explain things well, I really listen to people's needs. I'm honest when I feel like maybe the product isn't going to work for them. And I let them know, like, this is what I'm selling you today, but also these are all the things that we need to do together, or you need to do on your own to make this work really well for you. It's not just about having a listing. And so I ended up doing very, very well there. And I stayed there for about 4 years. And then I was taken back to the startup world. And I was a sales leader for a marketing platform, is what we were building. And I worked there for a couple of years. And it was really interesting because I've always wanted to own my own business. But it wasn't until I was working for this startup where I thought, we would sit on calls and we would explain, like the vision of what we were building, but it wasn't a real platform yet. It wasn't like a tangible thing people could see. And the CEO and the CMO were often on these calls and they're like, of course we can do that. Yeah. And we would get off the call and they'd be like, okay, team, like, how are we going to make this happen? Like, these are features we need to build in. And it really was like working at that company that I realized, you don't have to have all the answers to start a business. And if you kind of going back to the sales, roots, like if you're honest with people, you listen to their needs, maybe you let them know this is the first time I've ever done a project like this. People are good and they want to see small businesses succeed, I think. And so I ended up going to the CEO, who was a woman, and said, I'm going to start this company. I really want to do organizing. It's my passion. I think there's such a need. And she was so supportive. She kept me on for about 4 months in a part-time capacity. So I could really get the foundation of my business down, do a couple kind of test jobs for people. So I had some photos to share. And I mean, that was such a gift to be able to transition out of kind of the corporate world and into this entrepreneurial role. And that was 7 years ago. And now I have a team of 6 people. We do organizing in Indy, if I haven't really mentioned that. And we're lucky enough to work with amazing realtors like Colleen, where we're potentially helping someone declutter or depersonalize in advance of listing their home or having photos taken. We also do concierge moves. So on the back end, we will be there day one, unpack all their boxes, organize every space, bring in product, label everything. I mean, we can do the whole thing, and it's awesome when it happens that way for clients. But we also just work with people who've lived in their homes for a long time, and maybe a space needs to transition into something else, or they just kind of need to make sense of some of the things that have accumulated over time.
I mean,
That's
you are talking our language. You are everything that we love about entrepreneurship, like all the backstory, right? The doing
yeah,
different things, the different types of jobs that you've done, being able to take those
Picking
skills.
up different skills.
Yep,
Yeah.
being able to pick up
Mhm.
different skills, take those skills, turn them into something that you're really passionate about, and then, be successful in what you're doing. What Mariah's not saying is that she's really successful here, like very, very successful. When Allie first introduced me, and I tell her this all the time, she's like, "Hey, do you know Mariah Baer?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Mariah Baer." Like, I didn't know her, but I was like, "She's like literally famous here. Like, her business is like very famous, very well known. She does a lot of really cool, like, but you've built that business, and to build that business in 7 years, which is a long time, but also not, right? Like, is
yeah,
incredible. And we just love that. And the other thing,
Yeah.
I'm going to just personally brag about you right now. Like, I think is so cool is one, you are a twin mom, which is like, shout out to the moms that are running their own businesses and working and all of that. What I love about you and your business and your brand is sometimes when we see organizers or we see organized brands, like, what I see is like lack of color and like lack of
oh,
personality, and everything feels really white and really like stark and really like super organized, and that for me makes me feel it's not really my vibe. But when you see Mariah, like, she's super colorful, and like, if you can see when we post this on social media, like, her house is like full of, I would say, like, your aesthetic is almost maximalist color
yeah.
wise, which I think is really
It's funny
cool.
'cause I'm minimalist on color, but like maximalist on or minimalist on clutter, but like maximalist on color.
Yes.
I love color, I love pattern, I love wallpaper, but I don't have a lot of clutter,
Yeah.
like knickknacks around. So I'm intentional,
I
but
love
yeah.
it. I mean, I love that it has like your personality and it's very much your brand. And I think that that is something also when building a business that you've done so uniquely and so well is you've really built a brand that speaks to who you are and what your business is about, and about, you know, you, it embodies your personality, which I just think is really awesome. Um,
I also think that somebody in your role at that startup, that last business that you described before you went out on your own, there's two ways somebody could have interpreted what they were watching there. One, somebody could have been like, these people are frauds. They don't know what they're doing. And they're out here just selling this thing. And like, this is crazy. Or it could have been you that interpreted it as, oh, you don't have to have it all figured out and you can just jump and like let the parachute catch you and like figure it out as you go. And then be brave and realize, oh, I could do that too,
Yeah.
and that you took that route. That's the entrepreneur spirit that you have, and that's so inspiring, and I love seeing that. I love that. It's so fun.
yeah, I mean,
It's my vibe.
that is the thing, right? Like, when you're starting a business, when you're starting a business, like, my philosophy was always to say yes, right? Like,
Mhm.
yes, and then in my mind I'm like, I will figure out how to do that. That's the rest of the sentence that happens in my head, right? When I ran my construction business, there were times where people would ask me things and I'd be like, yes, and then I would go home and I would figure out how to do that, right? Like, and you figure out, like, I remember there's one time where somebody wanted this specific type of door on their closet. And I was like, yes, we can do that. And I spent hours and hours and days researching, like, how do we construct this particular door? But
Yeah.
to the client, the answer was just yes. And that's not
Right.
always great, but when you're starting out, like, that's kind of it's important. It's an important skill to understand.
It is. And I think over time, I've also learned like my limits. And I mean, what we do for clients, right? We're trying to take something off of their plates so they have capacity to, do whatever else. And so I also know my limits as an organizer, right? Like I'm not a general contractor.
Yeah.
And so I know when I need to hire in some assistance or work with the client to kind of figure out like who their trusted people are, because I don't need like a full shelving system falling out of a wall.
No.
And so I think it is important to kind of know your limits too, and have really great resources and partners. And
this goes back to why you were so successful in sales at Angie's List, because you were honest with your clients about what would and wouldn't work for them. And that is how you built trust. And like, I have been a commission only salesperson for my entire sales career, which is now 15 years. And it was a lot. I've had the success because I build trust. I say, yes, this will work for you. No, this won't work for you. Exactly what you said. Like, this will work for you, but there will be things you have to do. You will have to work as well. And that was something I learned with maturity in my company. Like I sold commercial insurance, and we were not the least expensive company. So I had to sell on the value a lot of the time. And our value was risk management materials and resources that we offered. And in the beginning, it was like, well, I was selling the value, saying like, look what we have. And then that was where the conversation ended. And as I got more mature and understood the business more, I would then really take the time to walk them through and hold their hand and make sure they started using those resources and explain to them the importance of using them and why they should use them. And then the relationship turned and they became lifelong clients, because now they relied on this resource and this value that I added to their life. And to replace that thing that I had offered them and taught them to use, it was going to cost them too much money. And I had done that for them. I had built that trust with them. I had held their hand and taken the time out of my life to do that for them, which had gotten me like a 99% retention with my clients. Well, like that's,
and that speaks.
And that's, I mean, honestly, like that plays into what we do with our clients. I rarely work with someone unless it's truly like a concierge move where maybe they're like, okay, here are the keys to the house. We'll be back in a week, which I mean, that's like its own unique beast. But most of the time when we are working with our clients, I don't bring any product on day one. I think people are used to like the HGTV, like done in a day. And there's something very cool about that. But I don't think those systems stick because you're not teaching your clients anything. And I feel like I have a lot of value and knowledge that I've learned over the years to help people implement systems that make their lives easier. And so our first step, the whole first session, which is 4 hours, is editing. And it's not like the client needs to sit next to us for that entire time, but we pull everything from a space. We're going to look through all, the expired food or the expired products in your bathroom. We're going to sort through your closet so that it's color coordinated by category. And then we're going to pull you in and we're going to say, okay, looks like we've got, a ton of XYZ. Like, why don't we look through this and decide, are you still wearing these items? Do they make you feel great? Like, these things have holes or stains on them. Then we make decisions on what to do with those items. And all of that is done before I propose a single like bin or basket or drawer organizer, because I really feel like the less stuff you have, the easier your life can become when it comes to clutter. And like if we skip that step and we just measure and bring product, I just think we're doing clients a disservice. So
yeah,
you're putting back a bunch of stuff
you're just
that
adding.
wasn't serving them to begin with.
Yeah,
exactly.
I want to touch on one thing, but I want to keep talking about what you're talking about. But one of the things that I was hearing both of you say, as far as like when you're starting out your business and then as your business evolves, right? Like when you start your business, it's a yes, I'll figure it out. As your business evolves, you have more intelligence in your business and on your business and with your business to set those boundaries. So I just feel like that is something like if for anybody listening who is a new entrepreneur or new in their business, like that sometimes comes with time and experience and learning. And sometimes it comes with saying yes and realizing you shouldn't have, or saying yes and realizing you've taken on too much. I think that's an important piece of that puzzle when you're building your business from scratch, right?
Yeah. And for the most part, I mean, I'm still a yes yes woman, like I say yes all the time. But yeah, you do certain jobs or you do realize your limits and you realize like, I mean, most every day I get to do something that I just love so much and I'm so passionate about, and I get to work alongside my amazing team. But there are some, moments when it's like we bit off a little bit more than we can chew, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to make sure this client's happy. But but maybe there's like a better line of questioning just to make sure that we're the right fit in the future for these particular types of jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most effective lessons we can learn come from mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And constantly tweaking. That's so key, right? Like, okay, next time, we talk about this like when we're doing buyer consultations or, working with listing, it's like, oh, next time I'm going to add this to my list of questions that I want to ask the person, or this, I want to make
Mhm.
sure that I really hit home on this point. And in any business, that's just the continual process of like growing your business. So I wanted to ask you, because you have built such a cool business and you have done I want to talk to you about your collaboration with Style Riot, because I think everybody should know about this, and I am like gonna sell a lot more houses so you can come and do it for me.
I
I
love
think it's so
that.
so tell us. Cheryl has no idea what we're talking about, so tell us all about
No,
this
I'm lost.
collaboration, because it's really cool and such a cool business collaboration with another women-owned business.
Sure. So a number of years ago, I met a local stylist who her name is Laura Walters, and her company is called The Style Riot. And she was doing a lot of editorial work at that time, but really wanted to branch into being a personal stylist for fabulous people in Indy. And so I've watched her business grow, and we, connected at various events. And we realized after sitting down, like we have so many mutual clients, or the clients I'm working with are people she would love to work with, and vice versa. And so last year, on in the year, we started talking about, the client experience that people have when they hire her, and then separately they hire me, and how we could maybe make that a little bit more streamlined. And so we came out with a service called the Lux Edit. And so basically what that is she goes in, well, everything's like streamlined through, I love process. And so like everything's streamlined through our website, and we use HoneyBook to manage all of our clients. And so we, are able to collaborate on the client project through HoneyBook. And so she handles 2 sessions with them. So she comes in and does like an edit of their wardrobe. And she's more focused on like what you would be wearing outside of the house, right? Whereas when we come in and we edit, we are going through those old t-shirts, we're going through the pajamas, it's like this underwear drawer is so full, let's talk about it. And so she kind of focuses on her edit. And then she does flat lays for them of different outfit combinations. She does a shopping trip with them. And then we come in and we do our edits. So focusing on the areas that she didn't touch. And we figure out how to make the closet just really functional for the client based on your lifestyle, how you like to get dressed, and kind of flow through your space. Because sometimes people are jumping from like the bedroom dresser into the closet, back to the dresser, into the bathroom where they've got their jewelry. And it's like, wow, this is a complicated process to get dressed. So we like to like streamline that as much as possible. And then we come back for a final appointment. So 2 with her, 2 with us, and we install product to just make it feel like your very own boutique. So it has been so fun. And we've had so many mutual clients, and now we've been able to take a handful of clients through this process together. And I think that people come out looking fabulous on the other side because she's a wizard, and then their closet is just amazing too. So
This is like my dream.
Incredible.
This is my dream. And what I love about this is, and I think is important for us to touch on, is just the collaboration of 2 women-owned businesses and how that comes together. So talk to us a little bit about like the nuts and bolts of how you guys worked out, if you want to. But like, I love this idea of like, hey, I noticed that you have the same kind of ideal client that I have. How do we make this an actual business or service? Like, how did that happen for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it came from the fact that we did have a few mutual clients. And so I had contacted her and said, okay, I know you've just been in Colleen's closet, for
Mhm.
example, and I just want to make sure that I'm not going through items that you've already edited for her and, saying like, "Oh, you don't need these things." If you literally just told her that they were useful. So, it kind of started from there, and then it was like, okay, why have two separate business processes? Why don't we come together, create this thing, make it really like feel super luxe, the Lux Edit for clients. And so I don't want to give away too many secrets, but when we start working with clients, we send them a beautiful bouquet of flowers, like before that first appointment ever happens, from both of us. And it's like, we are so excited to transform your look in your closet. And then at the end, they get this beautiful branded acrylic hanger that says, tomorrow's outfit, and it has both of our brand names on it. And that's made by a local company here called the Painted Letter Co. And she does amazing work. Any like acrylic signs, or we use them
Mm.
for like closet rod hangers and things like that. And just like the handwritten notes and like check-ins and stuff. It just, there's no um like, we're not both doing the same thing
Mhm.
either. Like, she's checking in and I'm, it's like there's an order to how things are happening. So I think the client feels like it's easy to work with us. Whereas
Yeah.
sometimes if you're working with two businesses, even if those businesses know each other or refer to each other, there's still like miscommunication or things get lost in translation. And so this just keeps everything really open between myself, Laura, the stylist, and the client.
It's such a cool, I love it. I mean, I think it's such a cool and smart business idea, business feature.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like,
And it's that I love working in people's closets. And so to drive more business to one of the spaces that I love the most is, intentional too. It's like I could spend every day in basically closets and pantries are my favorites. So
That's interesting you say that. So I was on a call this week and we were talking about he did an example of like, if somebody's handing you things and they just keep handing you things and then you eventually get to a place where you can't hold any more things.
yeah.
And then if somebody's trying to hand you something that like you really want and your hands are full, like you have to release something to be able to grab that other thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea really of like minimalism and like the decluttering, if you will, is like don't have too many things that you don't have room for the things you want to have, which kind of
Mhm.
brought me back to the whole Marie Kondo era on Netflix and
Yeah.
when I watched that. And it shifted my mindset to my time and how I want to
mm,
fill my time and like
Mhm.
getting rid of the things that I'm feeling like the things that are taking time out of my life that and then I shifted to, okay, well, if I wanted to fill my days with only the things that bring me joy, if I could shift that mindset and only work with the clients I want to work with and only work in the arenas I want to work with. And it sounds like you've just made this shift in your business intentionally to, fill more space in your business doing the thing. I love working in closets. So I'm going to make this very intentional shift so I can spend more time doing this thing I love. Like how remarkable is that kind of full circle declutter of your life where you made space to
Mhm.
fit this thing you love.
Yeah, like something I will do, but it's not my favorite is garages. So
Mm.
like we will do garages for existing clients, but if that's all someone needs done, I generally recommend some of the other companies in town who love doing garages
Mm.
and are so capable and do a fabulous job. And I realize I'm probably like losing out on future business because normally one organizing project leads to the next, but I just, it's like it's just not my bread and butter. So I kind of stopped posting about garages. Like we'll do them,
Mhm.
but I do not market that because like today is a perfect example. I don't want to be outside working in a garage
oh
when
my
it's
God,
90
it's
degrees.
so
Like
hot here right now.
I want to do it. And so there's just this like very short window of time throughout the year that like makes a lot of sense for me. And so I think I've like gotten to a good place with that. Like it's okay to let some of that business go because like a quote that was shared a number of years ago. I probably heard it on a podcast, but it was like every yes is is you like every yes you say is a no to something else.
Mm,
And I'm sure like we are probably all similar. When you make a commitment to something, I'm not going to bail.
yeah.
So it's like
Right.
my yes, today to being a guest on the podcast. Maybe that means I had to say no to lunch with somebody
Right.
that I really wanted to have lunch with, but it's like first come, first serve kind of thing. But also I think you do have to realize like, is this something that I'm going to get value out of, or I'll just really enjoy the conversation, or this person maybe is able to open some doors for me, or vice versa. Am I able to give back to this person? And I think some of that comes with time in a business,
Yeah.
starting to feel like okay to say no. I just don't have the bandwidth for that.
Yeah. And in
Well, every choice in
entrepreneurship,
our life it's all a cost benefit analysis,
Yeah.
whether you're making it or not. Whether you're doing the analysis.
analyzing,
Thank you.
analyzing.
Thank you for working through that with me.
Yes.
Thank you. Whether you're working the analysis or not, it's all a cost benefit. And, you're either doing it or you're not. And I invite us all to be intentional about it and make sure. This morning I had the pep talk with my kids as I went in my garage and saw they dumped an entire bag of cat food out again. So I have to go get another bag of cat food 5 days later because these little shits. And I'm like, girls, listen, you can either make good choices and have a fun summer, or you can make bad choices and be in trouble all summer. You can either choose that your sister is your best friend all summer, or you can choose to fight with your sister all summer and have a miserable summer. Like, these are all choices you get. They all have a consequence. Like, choose wisely here. And it's the same as we like get older and we have all these other choices. Like, yes, you chose to be on the podcast, which meant you maybe didn't get to have lunch with someone. There was a cost and cost and benefit to that, maybe.
Yeah. And when you're,
whether we see it or not, it's happening.
Nice. I love being here.
No, yeah,
I know you made the right choice.
right,
Made the right
absolutely.
choice.
But also, like, and I think, Mariah, you have done a really intentional job of setting aside days with your kids, and I love that. And I know that does limit you in some capacity in business, but also gives you so much, right? Like with your children. And I think when we talk about, and maybe I'm a broken record about this, but when we talk about entrepreneurship and we talk about what that means for our business, it means that it is that integration of life, personal life and business life, and making those decisions and understanding and being intentional about those decisions and understanding what the consequences or benefits are, right? If I'm going to a listing appointment at 6:00 at night, I know that that's going to take away from having dinner with my kids that evening, right? Now, if that's a listing appointment that's going to get me, a $2 million sale plus $1 million list, that's worth it for me because that's going to be beneficial to us as a family, right? So, but, I very well could have been like, you know what, I need to reschedule this appointment because it's really important for me to pick up my kids from camp and take them to dinner or whatever it is, right? And so that's something that you learn as you get deeper into your business, and you have honestly the privilege of, as you get more established in your business, to start making those really intentional decisions. I just want people to know that, like, sometimes that you don't always have that capability when you're first starting your business, but it does come as your business gets more established, as you have more systems and processes. I mean, Mariah, you're speaking Cheryl's language over there with the systems and process. And I think that
like knowing with that partnership you've had, like who reaches out when, and you're not both doing something, like that is just like almost an orgasm for me. Just so you know. Like that really was like, yes.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yes.
I mean, I have she's not new to the company, but she's growing into a team lead, which means she'll start leading her own projects. And she was over last week and in our headquarters here at my house. And we were going through, like, I was like, okay, here's the SOP guide for everything. And here's links to all of our, our open invoices and our pricing spreadsheets. And this is the back end of Honeybook and all the templates we built. And she was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea, because our organizers, most of them, they come to work, like they show up and then they go home, and there's nothing else for them to do. And so that's a really cool opportunity. I mean, everyone on the team is a mom.
Mhm.
It's not a requirement, but it is the current makeup of our team. And so it's like they show up, they do an incredible job, they get their steps in, we laugh and then they go home and they don't have to really think about what product needs to go in the space or how we're invoicing clients or, how we're marketing and selling to new clients. And so it was really cool to sit down with someone who's been a part of the company for a while and be like, and like here's behind the magic curtain, like all the stuff
Yes.
that really it's been the last, I would say, year and a half that, we've put into place in terms of processes where it was like, okay, if I want to go on vacation and this is like a business that should still be making money,
Yep.
I need to have people on my team that can still be working. And in order to allow that, I need to have processes in place so that they feel empowered to work and not have to ask me every step of the way. And so last January, so it's been a year and a half now, I hired a local company called Source Up, but they do work nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And they are my operations team. So
Mm.
they do all invoicing. I just text them my receipts or forward along receipts. They categorize it to the right client. They handle payroll. When we have like a new process, they write the SOP first and then I just review it. And that, I mean, it took me a long time to get there because in the beginning it was like, well, I don't like doing this work, like
Yeah.
the invoice, but I don't want to pay somebody to do it because I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I was just working all the time. And I do still work all the time. And I do work most nights, but I get to work on things that are fun for me versus like things where I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll go watch a YouTube video or
Yeah.
search a help kit for how to, do XYZ. And so I hired them and then it just like propelled our business. So it's like spend a little money to make money, right?
That's
that
that hard part of like, when do you make that jump? Because you always hear like making that jump is what propels people,
Mhm.
but it's so scary as an entrepreneur to know when do I make that investment? When do I make that? When am I willing to spend that money to make that investment? And that's where I'm at because I'm like, I can't imagine committing finances every month to something like that because I feel like we still need it. But I know that like that could be the thing that's going to just launch it.
Yep.
Scary.
Well,
So
it's like
scary.
at the end of the year when they like are like, they pay our like sales tax every month for me. They handle my quarterly tax payments. They communicate with my accountant at the end of the year. And I'm always like, I cannot believe that like I have this luxury. It does feel like a luxury.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm on that cusp of like, do I hire someone for marketing? Because I still like do all of that, but I feel like social media is getting so complicated that I'm like,
Yeah.
is that worth it for me?
Well, and that, I mean, like, I'm just like, people when they watch this will just see me nodding like furiously back here. I'm agreeing with everything. And that goes back to that, what's his name? The guy who wrote the book, Who Not How. And that is really exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, there comes a point when you are a business owner where you're like, I can do this, but who can do this at a higher level or better or more efficient so that I can spend my high value time doing something that I enjoy or being with my family or whatever. And I
Could
think
bring more revenue into my business.
correct, right?
Yeah.
Like
Spending the time doing the, for you, higher dollar value activities, like coming up with collaborations, coming up with, like going out and marketing your business because you are the face of this business versus YouTubing how the hell you pay your sales tax at the end of the year and like not even knowing that you're supposed to be doing that, like,
Right.
like those are so, I mean, that's a pivotal point in anybody's business, right? And I did that earlier this year when
I spoke to a business owner this week who told me, she's like, honestly, I'm afraid I'm going to get arrested for like business fraud of some sort because I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing because it's so goddamn complicated.
with the
Like,
taxes
I'm
and
going
all
to get
this
arrested
stuff.
just because I simply don't know what I'm supposed to be doing because it's so hard to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in California, so it's like extra layers of complicated here. And I'm like, I feel you. I completely feel you on that. Like, it is just like, you are setting us up to fail here in California. It is unfair. Business owners are
It's
just
really
like,
hard.
what? Who am I paying next?
Let's get to that place. And that's how I'm feeling about social media too. Like, what's the Instagram algorithm? Like, what is happening? And how many reels a week do I need to make? And, it's like,
What's trending audio?
Yeah, like what the hell, man?
this is so complicated. And
How many hashtags?
it truly is a full-time job. So yeah, it's tricky though to be like, I'm going to just give you this money.
Yeah.
And put it
I want to
in.
rewind to another thing you said about, because Colleen and I had this conversation earlier this week, the thing about how you made it look so easy.
Oh my
Colleen.
God. Yes. Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Go. You
So-
take it, girl.
Okay. So earlier this week, I, had a client and I got them under contract, and it seemed very easy to them. And they were kind of questioning my value because they were like, well, you didn't like do that much. It was really quick. And I had to not defend, but kind of, just be like, hey man, this looked really easy because I'm really good at my job. And it looked really easy because of the time and energy and effort I built into creating my business to what it is and the relationships I built. But I also was doing a lot behind the scenes that you couldn't see. So talk to us about that in your business, because you do, make it look really easy, but obviously, you're peeling back the curtain for us on everything right now. Like, is that something that you run into? Is that something that you've had to kind of overcome in the growth of your business?
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting because so much of the work that the two of you do is done offsite where the client can't see you.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that we do is very much on site. And if a client is around, they see, like, they can see us, like, pulling every single thing out of a space and categorizing it and, working through them with an editing process and loading donations into our car and taking consignments, over here and putting it all back in. And so I think once we're in a client's home, I don't run into that. And sometimes though, clients will say, I would love to do this myself. I love organizing. And so I always think, like, it's not that maybe half of our clients, it's not that they're not capable of doing it, right? And they might even love it.
Yeah.
They just don't have time for it.
Right.
Because I think to truly, like, organize well, it has to get worse before it gets better. Like, you do have to pull it all out and, like, dig to the back and see what's happening back there and then put it all back in. And so, but for some clients, it's like they really don't, it's not the way everyone's brain works, right? And yet we live in households with other people who maybe have different learning styles or different organizational styles than we do. And so to kind of come in and figure that out is something that's really unique that we can do. But I will say, like, on the phone, sometimes I do have to maybe explain our value and, like, the point of, like, why we charge what we charge. And I think much of that comes from just years of experience. And we are so efficient on site. And a big reason for that is we do training off site. Everyone's brought up to speed on our processes. And so when we're there, like, we are hustling. And it's amazing what can be done in 4 hours, even with 2 people. I think I get, like, a little cringe every time we change our pricing to keep up with the market, because everyone's like, everything's so expensive and everything is really expensive. And I'm always like, I don't want to price us out. Like, I do want to be able to work with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, yes, it's a luxury to have somebody come in and organize for you, but I don't want it to be unattainable for people. So I think, like, if, it might be something that you save for, but I want there to be an extreme amount of value that you get during that session with our team. And it's kind of like, what's the value of your time, right? Like,
Yeah.
what could you do with those 4 hours? Or, sometimes we have to talk about value in other ways. It's like we're working in a closet with really nice items and everything is on a wire hanger. And it's like, hangers aren't really that expensive, even really nice ones. It's not a huge, product invoice that we're sending if we're switching over hangers. But it's like, why spend, $75 or $1,000 on a blouse or whatever you're doing and put it on a wire hanger that's going to destroy the shoulders, But I'll still have to justify, like, the value of a nice hanger for someone. And so it is It's interesting. But I do think because we are in people's homes and we're like hustling right in front of them, once we're in, people are like, I can't believe you did all of this in 4 hours. So
Yeah, I mean, some of that comes down to just like at some point you do have to prove your value to people, but also like
mhm.
it's also client selection. It's also, I think
Yeah.
that that is a huge part of um, any business owners, and it takes a bit, I think, to get there, but really figuring out who is your client, and you're talking about that even with marketing, and you brought up a great point as far as like not, and this was something I learned through years. It's like if you don't want to do garages, don't post about garages. Like,
Mhm.
and if that's not what your ideal client it has and you want to do, don't do it. We had something similar where we had this great, when I had my construction business, we had this amazing client. We were doing a pool for them, backyard landscaping, and they also asked us to do a playhouse for their kids. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
what a cool thing. So I posted a picture about the playhouse. When I tell you that we got so many requests for fucking playhouses. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
this was like it was and that was a learning experience, right? I went on within a week, I'm not kidding, 4 or 5 like site visits for people who wanted us to build a tree house basically. And I was like,
Yep.
no, no, no. I had to be like, okay. But when we started pricing it out, it didn't make sense. Like the price for these tree houses, people, it was just like insane. But we did that as an add-on because these people were building a pool and doing a full landscape, and we painted the inside of
Right.
their house, whatever. But I quickly was like, well, I will never do that again because I can't be going on all these calls. That was very quickly a waste of my time. Just for like, you don't want to do garages. Like I also like I have a certain clientele that I want to work with, and that's okay. And we want to help everybody. And I always say I don't work with price points. I work with clients, but it's also a business. And so we have to market towards whoever that ideal client is. And I think that
Yeah, and I think that's like on social, it's like every post we do is like geared towards that ideal client. It's written for the ideal client, and then you just have conversations with all the inquiries and figure out if you're as good of a fit for them as well, in terms of like the services we offer. Because I do still feel like sometimes there's confusion around what we do or where our services begin and end.
mm,
I'm not an interior designer.
mm-hmm.
I'm lucky enough to participate in the Decorator Show House here in Indy. I've
Yes.
done that for 3 years. And so I get to kind of pretend I'm a designer because it's like paint and wallpaper and make these effectively storage spaces look just beautiful. But I'm not a designer. And so when someone's like, well, I've got this closet, but then I need like a new dining room table. I'm
Mm,
like, okay, well, we can help with the closet. And that's definitely where like these are some other partners that we have that might be a great fit for you. And so yeah, I mean, I always feel very comfortable being like, that's not in my
that's
my wheelhouse for services that we can provide. So, and like you were saying, like the ideal client, I think the ideal clients change over time
yes.
as as like you get more confident in your skills. You're like, yeah, I do feel comfortable working in those types of homes or with those like designer clothing or, this level of china in the kitchen and maybe packing it up for a client or something like that. It's like you get more comfortable over time. um and referrals are everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's how I built this business. I really haven't done much in the way of spending money on advertising. I do a lot of like free marketing options, social and TV appearances and podcasts and things like that, where it's my time, but
Yeah.
not necessarily like pouring money into something. And it's all been built on referrals. And so, yeah, just got to do a good job for people.
Yeah, for sure. I want to touch on one thing
Yeah.
because I know we have to wrap up. Something that you're super passionate about, something that you do that's kind of unique to your business. Talk to us about the donations list that you've created and
Oh,
all the
yes.
donation stuff that you do because this is awesome.
This was like when I talk about those 4 months where I was still employed by my former company and like building the foundation of my business, this is something that I did then. And I found every charitable organization in town that was physically taking donations from people. So not an Amazon wish list, but like, we need bedding, we need clothes, we need like sample toiletries, we need pad folios. And I compiled them into a donation guide, which lives on our website. And I also have like these cute fold down ones that I share with clients when I'm on site, and they're in a couple stores here in Indy. But it's like my passion project to just amplify the needs that these places have. I think Goodwill is incredible. And oftentimes we do drop at Goodwill because every day we have to show up with an empty vehicle to work to take people's donations. But there are just, I mean, hundreds of organizations in town that have really specific needs. Like, one example, there's a group called Project Play, and they put used but in great condition toys, books into the hands of kids in need here in the Indianapolis area. I love them for so many reasons, but one of them is they'll do a house call to pick up donations.
Oh, yeah.
And so last week I had a client, we filled up a vehicle, I brought it all back to my house, I pulled my own donations, and they came all up. And now I know those are literally going directly into the hands of kids in need, which is so cool.
That's awesome.
And there's just a huge need. And you can pretty much donate, anything in good condition. There's probably another home for, or just educating clients even on like the power of a buy nothing group, which those are, most communities have those where you can say like, the craziest things are offered up on there. Like, I opened up this, bottle of lotion and I'm allergic to it. Like, who wants it? So it's like there is a way to like not fill the landfills, but also I just really try to work with my clients to educate them on like just being a really conscious consumer, like thinking twice before you buy, because ultimately like all of that stuff has to go somewhere someday.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a big consumption problem as a society. Makes us feel really good to buy new things, and yet sometimes it's maybe not the best for the environment, or like we don't need it. So I like to talk to people about that too, because I don't want you to just buy stuff that ultimately you're going to donate tomorrow, even though there are places that need those things. So
yeah,
that's been my biggest
Amazon wish
shift.
list.
That's been my biggest shift over the last year is if it comes into my house, it's one day going to have to leave my house. And so what do I need to stop buying and stop doing? And the Amazon deliveries have slowed down tremendously. I still have the weeks where I need a little comfort, and you do see an uptick.
Of course.
But by and large, it's improved tremendously over here.
To take it one step further, and this could probably be like a part 2 conversation for another hour, but if you're not the one to make a decision about it, about like what's happening to it down the road, someone else has to, right? Like your kids have to.
Oh my God.
And so a lot of our clients, I feel like, are at that age where maybe they are helping their parents age in place, or they've moved them into like a senior living community. And the way that all of that stuff feels as a child, an adult child, like having to figure out what to do with all of those things, it is so overwhelming. And so like we're in that spot right now where we're experiencing it as a child, as an adult child, like what do we do with all of our parents' stuff? But then do we really want to do the same exact thing to our kids at some point?
God.
So it's like just really like I'm a big proponent of pitching some of the artwork that comes into the house.
Dude, the artwork.
Like you can't keep it all. And like if you're gonna keep it, like organize it, sort it, so that someday you can say like, I cared so much about this stuff and I condensed it down, and this is your very best work, and here you go. And it's like a manageable amount, not just like a ton of cardboard boxes with just stuff thrown in it. And you're, because it's like, no one wants that.
No,
no adult wants
my mom did that to me, by the way. She kept all this stuff. And then once I was an adult, she was like, here, come get all your stuff. And I was like, I didn't choose to keep that stuff. Like you chose to keep my kindergarten artwork. I'm going to throw it away. And she was like, how dare you? I kept it
Well,
for
and
all
I
these
think that,
years.
like, sometimes as a parent, it's like, well, I'll let my kid make that decision down the road. I'll let my kid make the decision down the road. I think most people as adults are like, no, I wish you would have made some of those decisions because like I don't want to deal with
I have
this.
enough
Like
decisions right now. I don't need to decide whether I keep my 5th grade basketball trophy. Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't need it. There's
Oh my
no.
God, that is so
No.
funny. The other day, our kids have been in gymnastics camp, and when they came home, they wanted to do like a show for us. What's it called? Like a trampoline, with a bar on it, in the basement. And so they did this show, and I was like, Tyler, my husband, I was like, you still have some of your trophies. I said, we need to go pull those out and give them to the kids. And
Yes.
our kids are just like losing their minds. They now have them displayed in their bedrooms, and they're so
Same.
excited about it. So also it's like, if you're saving it as an adult and it's from your childhood, like, why are you saving it? And could you potentially like let your kids play with it? Let your kids play with the American Girl dolls, or
Yeah.
give them your trophies, because honestly, like, what else are you saving it for?
Literally those 2 examples. I gave my boys all of my trophies from when I was a kid, and they freaking love
Yeah.
it. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
my son took it to show and tell, and then it broke, and they were like, "Oh, mom, are you upset?" I'm like, "No, I don't. Who
No.
cares?"
Yeah.
And then I gave my daughter, and this was hard for me. I don't know why, but I think there was so much value and emotional attachment and like whatever to American Girl dolls. But I gave my daughter my original Samantha American Girl
Yep.
doll.
Yeah.
And she was just over the moon about that. Like, it was so
Yeah.
special to her, and it was such a nice, like a gift that I could give her, and I had all the shit. But part of me was like, should we sell that for your college tuition? Like like maybe don't mess it up, but she loves it, and
And there's like a sense of joy for you to see her playing with this thing from your childhood.
yeah.
So that's where it's like, I do feel like we love helping clients move, because it is that opportunity to like go through everything you have and decide if it's still important to you. But even if you're not moving, I still think that like every couple of years, just doing an inventory of your house and like the stuff you're saving, and kind of thinking through like, why am I saving this? Is it still important to me?
Yeah.
Could I bless somebody else with it? Do I give it to my kids? Like, really kind of thinking through that, I think can just ease a huge weight off of your shoulders at various points in the future. So
Awesome.
Well, Mariah, you have somewhere to be. A client is waiting for you to change their life.
Yes.
So please tell us where people can connect with you. How can people find you if they'd like to work with you?
So my last name is spelled Baer. So handles on social, and the website is www.thebaerminimalist.com. On social, The Baer Minimalist.
Amazing. And everybody in Indy should just go and hire her immediately, because she's fabulous and just wonderful to talk to and hang out with and be. And she's such a light. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for chatting with us.
It was wonderful.
That's a wrap.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.